Hey friend, I'm so excited you're tuned into another episode of Start That Business. I am thrilled to have Kris Jones on today's episode. After 20 years of crafting stories for giants like Nike and Adidas, she discovered something shocking. A single well-told story can replace your marketing and double your revenue. Hand-selected as a mentee by Story Brand's Donald Miller, Kris Jones has cracked the code on turning expertise into sales. Today, she helps coaches and consultants scale from 30K to 300K months using her signature story selling system, proving that you don't need endless content or complicated funnels to attract premium clients. You just need one story told well. If you're a Jesus-led career mom who has been freelancing here and there, but you're ready to turn your expertise into an online coaching, consulting, or professional service business, and you want to create messaging that connects to your ideal audience, this episode is for you. So pop in those earbuds, tune out the noise from traffic, and lean into today's episode. Let's get started. Hey, Kris, welcome to the Start That Business podcast.
Thank you for having me, Chichi. I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm so excited to have Kris on today's episode. Now, y'all, before we started recording this episode, I was geeking out on Donald Miller. So Donald Miller is an author that writes books for small business owners. And when Kris reached out to me and I found out that she had worked with him, I was like, yes, get on the show. So I'm so excited that at least we share that in common, because I know anyone that has worked with Donald Miller has a heart to simplify things, to pour into other business owners. So you guys are in for a treat today. You're totally in for a treat. So Kris, before we dive in, I'm curious, how did you first get into the story-driven marketing space? Was there a particular moment in your life you realized the power of storytelling for your business? Do you have your own one story? Because I know you talk about that a lot in your content. So how did you get started?
Well, I started out as a visual storyteller, which started really early in my life. Like as a child, I was always telling visual stories. And instead of like playing with dolls, I would be designing a travel brochure for a vacation spot. I was doing things like that. And so then it's no wonder that I eventually became a graphic designer and again, just carried through that visual storytelling passion that I had. And I got to work with big companies like Nike and Adidas, and Jeff Bezos was a client of mine. It was really a wonderful phase of my life. But eventually I just honed in on the people that I really love to work with, which are the small business owners, because they're the ones I think that can benefit the most from effective design and effective marketing. And so I found myself really working with people like me, people that were either solopreneurs or had a small business. And I was continuing the visuals, the design, the branding. And I ended up, I've been doing this so long. I've been in the industry now 23 years. So this is like, the internet was barely a thing when I started out. And so back then, really having a beautiful website was all you needed to become a legit business. Like you could thrive and grow with a pretty website that didn't say much. But over the years, the landscape online changed, things started getting more saturated, and I started to realize that the beautiful websites that I was building weren't as effective as they had been and as they needed to be. And so that's when I kind of started considering like, okay, what can I do in addition to visual storytelling to really help my clients get the results that they were hoping for. And I had a client at that time that came to me. Her name was Elise, and she had a background in writing and in publishing. And so she was like, I'll write the website. I just need you to take what I've written and make it beautiful. And I was like, oh, done, done, done. Yes, I'm in. And so we set our project start date for April 2nd. And I said, okay, I need the messaging that you're going to want on your website on April 2nd. That will allow me a couple weeks to do the design, and then we'll launch on time. And the morning of April 2nd, I got a phone call from her, and she had been like up all night. She was super stressed out. She was really frustrated. She was really overwhelmed. And she was like, I don't know what my problem is. I'm a good writer. I don't know why I can't write for my own business. Like, I know the business through and through. I'm good at what I do. Why is this so hard? And like, the more I work at it, it's not getting any better, right? Like more work is not giving me any better results. And so at that point in my career, I didn't feel equipped to write her copy for her, but I had always really inherently had a less is more, keep it simple approach to visual storytelling. And so she and I brainstormed some ways to kind of solve this problem. I said, here, you can hire a couple of copywriters. You can interview some of your clients. Here are a couple templates that I've found. And she tried all those things. She went through multiple copywriters, and ultimately, we didn't solve the problem, honestly. And she was really struggling with this. And the truth is that she was not my only client who was struggling with writing their own messaging. And I just realized, like, thank God for Elise. She was kind of the piece of the puzzle that happened that made me declare, like, I'm never letting this happen again. I will never let this happen again. And so I just made it my mission to figure out how to tell a very clear and compelling story on a website and for a business that was really going to get them the results they needed. So I flew across the country. I learned about storytelling. I took workshops. I became one of the very first story brand guides, which are now called story brand coaches. This was before the book even came out. So I got to work directly with Donald Miller through that process. And of course, I immediately applied what I had learned over the course of many, many months. I applied it initially to my own business to kind of like practice and started really noticing benefits like literally overnight, and was integrating it into all my client projects as well. Since, that phase of my business, I've never not integrated storytelling into a project. Like, it's absolutely part of everything that I do now because it works. And shortly thereafter, well, number one, my own business, like, people started booking in my calendar and booking calls and wanting to work with me. I was getting booked out, and that really hadn't happened previously. I had people like taking the train and road tripping to Portland to meet with me to talk about working together. And that had never happened before. But better than that, I was having clients calling me and saying, Kris, somebody just booked my service, and they didn't even, like, I didn't even have to get on a phone call with them. Like, the messaging was selling for them. I had another client that called me and said, you will not believe this, but I'm charging 6 times more for the exact same service.
Wow.
And prior to that, he was like, this was his like Hail Mary. He was like, I'm either going to close the doors, I'm either going to invest in working with you, or I'm going to close the doors of my business. And thankfully he invested, and now he's like really thriving. And so, like, I was getting calls like that all the time. Oh my gosh, I'm getting a record number of lead calls booked and making more money. And it was such a mind-blowing experience for me because it really did feel like this was all happening kind of overnight. And that's the power. That's the power of telling a story. Essentially, that's kind of how I got to where I am now. And now, I help people with their websites and tell a really powerful and compelling story. I used to do design first and then kind of like fill in the text as an afterthought. And now everything is all about story first. And then how do we use design to bring that to life? And yes, we create stories. I create stories for my clients on their website, but the story we craft is really a brand, a narrative for your entire business. So you have one powerful story that you can use in every area of your business.
Wow, that is so fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing the story of how you started working with the big companies and you found your heart in the small businesses and how that has transformed even your business. So I've noticed that many service-based businesses struggle with marketing authentically. So why do you think storytelling works? I know you gave examples of some of your clients who were at the verge of shutting down. Why do you think storytelling works so well for them specifically? And how have you seen it transform client relationships? What is it about storytelling that moves the needle?
Yeah, as humans, we're wired for a story, right? We've been telling stories since the beginning of time, sitting around the fireside, and we're really just wired for them. So what I love about story is that it's timeless and it really cultivates a connection and trust, and it works. The thing about like what we call story is really there's a lot of psychology integrated into story. And when a story begins with a hero that has a problem they don't know how to solve, our brains cannot help but engage. And so when you think about like the story that we tell for your business, it's no different than the story that was told in the last movie you watched or the last book you read. And the last movie you went to, for example, you walked in, the lights dimmed, maybe you had your popcorn in your lap. You did not get up and leave until that movie ended, right? 90 minutes. And nobody even looks at their phone during a movie either. Nothing has the power to capture our attention, especially in this day and age, the way that story does. And as business owners, our job is to get people's attention and to engage them and help cultivate a connection, to build connection, build trust, build resonance with them, and essentially inspire them to take action to want to work with us. But what I love about it, it's not manipulative, right? It's going to pull in the right fit people for you. And the right story is going to repel the wrong fit people. So it's a very efficient way to do your marketing because you're not wasting your time with a bunch of people that aren't the right fit. The story is so clear and so compelling that the people that are your people self-identify and are ready to move forward. And they know immediately, like, finally, this is the right person. This is the guide that I want to work with. So many business owners unknowingly make themselves the hero of their own story. And we've all done that where we've gotten on a website. We're looking for example, an accountant or a coach or whatever we're looking for, right? We get on the website and then we're like, no, and we move on to the next one. And the reason people click off of your website is most likely because you're making yourself the hero of your own story. And there's two reasons that doesn't work. Number one, there's only room for one hero in every story, and your clients are the hero. Number two, the hero is actually the weakest character in the story. We think of heroes as like superheroes and Superman, but the true heroes, really, we don't know if they're going to succeed or if they're going to fail. And so they're not the strongest character in the story. the guide is the strongest character, and the guide would be like Yoda or Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah.
That's who we want to position ourselves as in the story, in the narrative that we craft for our clients. And in that narrative that we're crafting, I just want to clarify something because I get this question a lot. People come to me and they go, well, what if I don't really have a story? Or what if my story is like kind of boring? Well, everyone has a very compelling story. I have yet to meet somebody who doesn't. And the reason is because we're really crafting a narrative, a brand narrative, a narrative that invites your potential clients into a story with you, a story where they're the hero and you play the character of the guide, and they can really envision themselves finding success with your help. And that's the story that we're telling. There's another type of story called like a founder's story, and it's more about you as the founder. Like, what was your upbringing? Did your grandfather influence you? Those kinds of things. Founders' stories are for founders. They're fun to write if you're a founder and your story is meaningful. A founder's story isn't going to get you new clients. A brand narrative, what I'm talking about, is the thing that's going to help you grow your business.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. You're making me want to go to the movies with everything you said. And it makes sense. The psychology behind storytelling makes sense because you go to watch a movie and you sit there in about, say, 5 minutes, you identify the hero already and you're already rooting for the hero, hoping and praying that they make it. And you're just sitting on the edge of your seat, especially if it's a really good movie. So I can definitely see how important storytelling is. So you're pretty much taking the concept of storytelling in movies and bringing it to your business so that when someone comes there, it's like they're reading about themselves. They're like, that's me. Oh, I have that problem. Oh, this person is talking exactly about me. And when you're done, it's easy for them to say, this person, I want to work with this person because they definitely can guide me. So when a business owner is sitting down to figure out their story, I know you mentioned that you meet some people and they say, oh, I don't have a compelling story. So when a business owner is sitting down to figure out their story, there are probably lots of options to choose from. So how do you help them identify which parts of their history or values or whatever their services they're offering can actually resonate with their audience? What is that process like?
Well, I do have a freebie that will walk you through this process. So I just want to let your listeners know that's available to you. It's on my website at reddoorstories.com, and it's called How to Write Compelling Copy in 5 Minutes Flat.
Wow.
So that's there. So you don't have to be taking notes or try and remember this. But every story begins, like I mentioned before, with a hero that has a problem they don't know how to solve. They meet a guide who has a solution, a plan, a path that if they follow that path, they're going to experience success and they're going to avoid failure. The number one thing that you need to do as a business owner, or I should say that the most important thing that you can do for your business, is to shift your lens around how you talk about your business. And instead of being the hero, instead of talking about yourself, be the guide. Talk about the hero. And really, I like to let business owners off the hook and just say, your story isn't even about you. It's about your hero. And yes, you play an important role in this narrative, very important. And the narrative would not be complete without the guide. But really, it does let you off the hook a little bit when you kind of shift the lens and be like, okay, this is about my hero. And so in the freebie that I just shared with you, really we begin by getting all that stuff in your brain out of your head and onto a paper, whatever, a Google Doc, whatever is comfortable for you. And start brain dumping the things that your clients tell you that they are struggling with. And that's the most effective way to begin your story, is just by articulating their struggles and helping them feel like, oh my gosh, she's in my head, or they're in my head. How do they know all this? And when we begin our stories in that way, there's lots of layers of psychology in every component of a story. But this one is my favorite because it does a lot of heavy lifting. When you articulate their problem really well, they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel not alone in their struggle, and they most importantly feel like you're the best one to solve the problem. If you know the intricacies of what they're struggling with so well, you are clearly the best one to solve it. So it's really a wonderful way to really cultivate a real authentic connection. When we make a coffee date with somebody new, we sit down with them. Let's just say you've got 5 or 10 minutes with somebody new. You're going to sit down with them. You're not going to launch into your offer and all the ways that you can solve their problem. You haven't even taken the time to connect. So when we meet with people for coffee in person, we sit down, we connect with them. We ask them how things are going. What are they struggling with? What are you working towards? What are you hoping to achieve? These are the ways that we connect in person. So why wouldn't we do the same thing with our marketing and with our website communication? Because your website is really, truly just a first 5-minute coffee date. It's an extension of you. There should be total congruence between someone's experience of your website, and then if they book a call with you and meet you, it should be very congruent, right? Your website is really representing you, and it should really feel energetically aligned with who you are. And so when they do get on a call with you, they feel like they already know you. It's really wonderful.
Wow. As you were responding to the question, talking about how we need to position as guides instead of the hero, it reminded me of the story of Joseph in the Bible where he was interpreting dreams. So it's like you become a dream interpreter because you know their problems, you know their struggles, and you're able to articulate it in such a way that they say, okay, I want to work with you because not only do you know the interpretation of their dreams, that's where they want to get to, you also have the path, the solution to get there. Because with Joseph, when he was done interpreting the dream, he always gave a solution, a path. And the king said, who better to implement this plan than you, who understands the problem so well, and you even provided the solution. So it's the same thing that happens when you make your customers the hero. You're able to describe their pain, their struggles, and you talk about yourself being the guide that would take them to the solution they need. It makes it a no-brainer choice. They're like, who else to help me get there than you, who already described everything I'm already dealing with? You're already in my head. So take my money.
And they honestly, like, when it's done well, they don't know why. They just know you're the obvious choice. Like, they just are wanting to work with you. And they might say, oh, it's just a gut feeling. Like, I really felt like a connection with you. And they probably do. But also, all of these tools are working for you to foster that connection and make it clear that you know how to solve the problem. When you step in as the guide, true guides don't need to brag or boast or talk about how good they are. They show up with such a helpful heart, and they just step into this story with total empathy. It's so beautiful. It's such a refreshing way to move through a website or to interact with somebody's marketing and messaging. It's incredibly powerful, and it's so different from what most people are doing online.
That makes total sense because it makes you feel so seen. And I think we underestimate the fulfillment that comes from being seen, being heard, being valued, and being taken care of as a potential client. So we've all seen storytelling gone wrong. I know. You've talked about how you've gone to different websites We've had those awkward about pages or videos that just don't connect, like the example you gave. So, what's the biggest mistake you see entrepreneurs making when they try to use storytelling in their marketing? So, you can share any horror stories, any cringe worthy moments. What biggest mistakes do you see out there with the storytelling marketing?
Well, I think the biggest is just people have a lot to say. As business owners, I liken our brains to like a crowded garage, the type of garage that doesn't have any cars in it because the cars can't fit in the garage. There's piles of boxes and just stuff everywhere.
Right.
That's like the entrepreneurial business owner brain is a lot like that. And we're idea generators. We're constantly problem solving, and it's beautiful. Like, I love working with business owners because of this. But the way people get kind of stuck is that they have so many ideas and so much to share that they kind of use their website and their messaging as a dumping ground for all that. When you walk into a garage and there are piles of boxes, it's impossible to decipher what is the treasure versus what is the trash.
Right.
And a story is the way through that. A story allows you to identify the golden thread of your messaging. And I think of it really as a powerful filtration device, meaning it filters out the noise and keeps only what's essential and what's clear and what your clients need to hear. So this can look like a website that just has long paragraphs of copy, fonts that are too small to read. People don't even read websites anymore. They scan them. So we have to really be meticulous with our words. And, I would say as a general rule, if you're listening to this, go to your website and cut the amount of copy on your website, cut it in half. And that'll get you closer to where you need to be.
Wow, did you hear that? Kris said, go to your website, go through it and cut the content in half. I think we're going to be doing a lot of website rebrand after this podcast episode. But I like that you share that because even me, I'm in the process of rebranding because I kind of got lost in the trap, the mistake you just talked about, which is trying to say too much. Then I remembered, I'm like, Chichi, what are you doing? Have you forgotten the story brand framework? It's like I totally just forgot about all of that. So now I'm in the process of rebranding and just, like you said, going in there, cutting more than half because less is more. I don't want my website to be like this crowded garage where potential customers come in and they're overwhelmed just looking at everything. So I'm going to go do what you're talking about, just going in and cutting down so that when people come, they see exactly what they need. Now, you mentioned about one of your clients who was at the verge of either shutting down his business or using your service. Can you tell me a little bit more about his story? What really worked to transform his marketing through storytelling? What were the struggles you saw there and what changed for him? What kind of results did he get and how can we learn from his real life story?
Well, I think the hidden benefit of story is really this. Like, we think we want a story because we want our potential clients to understand what we do. And the strategic byproduct of that is that through the process of getting clear on your story, you embody on a cellular level, you understand the power of what you do, and you have the words within you to communicate what you do. And so what happened for him is like he moved through the world differently. He told me, he's like, I have a swagger when I walk into a room now because he had the words to communicate what he did, and he understood why his work was important and how he really helped people. And I don't think he really, like, he was doing the same work, right? Prior to working with me, his offering didn't change, but the way he talked about it and the internal confidence that he gained from that was everything. And I watched it happen with another client of mine who we went through the process, and she shared a testimonial with me. She was like, I didn't realize like how much I was fumbling around on sales calls. And she didn't show up with the inner confidence. She was solving a very, very important problem for these people. She was a coach, and she went from closing about 20% of her sales calls to closing 95%.
Wow.
And that was not just about her outward messaging. It was about how she navigated these calls and having the words to really communicate what she did. So if she got on 10 client calls, she was getting 9.5 new clients. Like, it was a total game changer for her.
Wow, that is amazing to hear the transformation she's having or your clients are having. And it sounds to me like, from what you're saying, once you're able to nail your brand story or your brand narrative, it brings so much clarity that gives you a boost in confidence and how you show up to actually deliver your services to those you're serving. It's almost like you have this moment where you can identify the quantifiable end results that you're actually getting for these people. And that's what the story does. It helps you clarify that you know exactly what these people are getting when they come to you. So I can see how the confidence will go off the roof because of that.
Yeah, imagine, every business owner is so close to their own business. It can be really hard to talk about what you do. It's like trying to describe your palm when your palm is stuck against your face.
Right.
You can't describe it. I call this the bottle effect. And so you're really stuck inside the bottle, and you're trying to read the label of the bottle that can only be read from the outside. And when you work with me, I come in and I come and look at your business and you and everything that's going on with a fresh perspective. I can read the label of your bottle, and then I can help you read that label too. But it's a collaborative process. So what happens at the end is, like, you can read the label of your bottle really clearly, and that like fills you up with confidence. Again, we're just so close to our own businesses. We've forgotten what it's like to not know what we know. And so we use language that can speak over people's heads. And we've been in it long enough to really not realize, or we've forgotten like the gravity and the power of the work that we do. And so sometimes it's really helpful to have a perspective giver come in and help you do that.
I love that word, a perspective giver. And that is exactly what Kris can help you with, bring that perspective so that she can read the label on your bottle and you can stop struggling to read it from inside the bottle. So, Kris, before we wrap up, I know that many Jesus-led career moms starting their first online coaching or professional services business feel overwhelmed juggling all the different marketing platforms and strategies. What's one practical step they can take today to start moving toward that single powerful story that could replace all their fragmented marketing efforts right now?
The number one thing that you should do is go to my website and get my freebie. It's truly going to help you begin to craft that story. It's going to help you identify the problem, help you identify how you solve that problem, and help you identify all the wonderful things that your hero is going to experience as a result of working with you. And that's at reddoorstories.com. But the other thing that I would like to share is just perspective change. So when I think about marketing, I really think about your website as the center of your marketing universe. It is the sun in your marketing universe. And it's very easy when you're getting going with a business to feel like you need to be doing all the things, be everywhere, and do everything. Who can do that? Like, we do not have the capacity to be everywhere all the time. So I would say, I encourage my clients, invest in the sun, get your website working for you, turn it into your top sales employee and get it working. And then the planets that go around the sun, each planet is a different marketing activity. So, for example, appearing on a podcast or having your own podcast is one planet. Going to a networking event might be another planet. Email marketing might be on another planet. There's all kinds of planets that are circling around this sun. Pick two. Pick two that feel fun for you. One planet might be social media, right? So my idea of fun is not posting on social media. That is not one of my planets. I don't have to be there if I don't want to be. And so I've really been intentional to set up I have an Instagram account, but I haven't technically posted to my Instagram grid in a couple of years.
Wow.
Like, it's working for me because I set it up with 15 different posts that tell the full story. And then it directs people to my website. So whatever planets you choose, like, I love podcasting. I love having conversations like this. This to me is life-giving and fun, whereas social media feels like the never-ending perpetual homework assignment that never ends, right? So I look forward to podcast guesting, but I dread social media. So I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing any of the other planets. My two planets that I've chosen because they're fun for me are podcast guesting and email marketing. So I grow my list and stay in touch with my list, but you can pick whatever two planets that you want, as long as when you're on those planets doing those activities, you just keep pointing people back to your sun, back to your website. And so the first thing you need to do is get your website tuned up so you can confidently point people to it and just have the peace of mind knowing that it is a beautiful extension of who you are.
Wow, what a way to end this conversation. Kris, this has been so meaningful. I love just the conversation we had, even the analogy you gave about the sun. I love it, love it, love it. So you heard Kris, focus on your sun, get it right, pick two planets. If you're like me, you avoid social media just like Kris. I actually had an episode I did with another guest where she helps you do SEO and avoid social media, so to grow your list. So that's why I was laughing, because it seems like all the guests I bring on, we share that in common, where we don't want to play in the planet called social media.
That's right.
So thank you so much, Kris. This has been a meaningful conversation. Don't worry about the links to the freebie. I will have it in the podcast description, and any other resource Kris will talk about, including a link to her website. Kris, before you leave, I know you're writing a book called How to Easily Create a Story-Driven Website That Turns Visitors into Clients. Can you talk briefly about that book and how my listeners can connect with you?
Yes, you can go to my son, aka my website, reddoorstories.com, and my book is on there. The book is complete, but it's right now we're just getting it ready for the audio version and kind of tying a bow on it. So you can sign up there to be notified when it's available to purchase. The book is called From Click to Client: How to Easily Create a Story-Driven Website That Turns Visitors into Clients. And I would love for you to get on the list, and then I'll let you know right when it's available.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. The link to the book will be in the podcast description. You can connect with Kris on her website, reddoorstories.com. I know she's taking new clients, so if you need her to help you write your brand story, please go sign up with her and get that story down so that you can have something to market to all those you've been called to serve. Again, thank you, Kris. This has been an amazing conversation. Please say hi to Donald Miller that you talked to one of his fans whenever you meet him. Thank you so much for being a guest on today's episode.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope you learned something new and you were encouraged to take action. If so, will you stop right now and share this episode with someone so they can get the help you just got? I would also love it if you can leave a review for this podcast on Apple Podcast or the podcast app you are using to listen. This is the number one way I know you are getting value from the content on this podcast. Until next time, always remember you have all you need to start that business. So keep listening for more episodes. I'll meet you here next week.